Thank you, Peter Smith, so much for being here on the summit. Welcome.
Thank you, Jocelyn. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. And so I'm going to go ahead and read your bio and just introduce you to the summit audience a bit. Peter Smith has been president of the Michael Newton Institute since 2009. He has trained Life Between Lives therapists across the USA, UK, Europe, and Australasia. And in 2013, he was awarded the Peggy Newton Award for Outstanding Service to the Institute. He is one of the author collective featured in Memories of the Afterlife, the fourth book in the best-selling Life Between Lives series that started with Dr. Newton's first book, Journey of Souls, in 1994. Peter travels widely to promote the Michael Newton Institute and has been featured in a number of documentaries in his home country of Australia and in other parts of the world. And our topic today will be Life Between Lives. And so a quick explanation of that. Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy takes clients on a journey to awaken their immortal identity. We enter each lifetime with a purposeful intention to evolve, grow, and expand the learnings of our soul. This groundbreaking work, started by Dr. Michael Newton, has now spread to 40 countries around the world as people answer the fundamental questions, what have I come here to do, and who am I really at the deepest level? Very exciting, very looking forward to speaking with you on this topic. So to get started, what is Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy, and how did it all get started?
Yeah, happy to start there, Jocelyn. That's a great place to start. But let me say how great it is for us to be part of this summit, first of all. We never miss an opportunity to try and get a message out to humanity that we're part of a greater consciousness. So this summit is a wonderful way in which we can all do that. So thank you for what you're doing here.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for being here.
So let's talk a little bit about Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy. And as you and a lot of our listeners would know, and they would understand, of course, that reincarnation and past life regression into reincarnation has been something that's been around for a long time. Michael's work started back in the 1960s when he accidentally, if you like, discovered the interlife. And he found ways in which people could go to the place in between these incarnations, an incredible place where we set up these incarnations before we arrive. We come here with purposeful intention and we reconnect with souls that we've incarnated with many times. It was like what we discovered, rather than discover just past lives, Michael helped us to uncover not just the lineage of our souls, but how we are the creators in each of those incarnations and how we set them up. And for him, it happened accidentally when he was working as a traditional therapist in LA many years ago. And he was helping a lady with depression. And as we often do as hypnotherapists, he directed her back to the source of her depression. She was feeling extremely lonely in her life. And she all of a sudden was in a group of souls and she was reconnecting with soul friends. And she was out of her body and she was in a place that could only be described as a world of complete peace, harmony and connection. And when she was reunited with those souls, he discovered that she was in another place again. And that was the emergence of the spiritual realm where we go between our incarnations. And over a period of 35 years and 7,000 cases, Michael mapped that spiritual realm and brought to the world some general understandings as to how that spiritual realm works.
Wow. Quite an amazing story.
Definitely.
Now, is there a difference between past life regression and Life Between Lives therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. If we look at the traditional parameters of past life, we would start at a certain life and we'd travel back along a timeline and we would drop into a past life and we'd learn the lessons of it, drop into another one perhaps. With this, we go really deep into the superconscious memory, which, if you like, is soul memory, and we have a sweeping view along those lifetimes. So rather than drop into a particular past life for a particular purpose, we look at the themes that move across the lineage of somebody's soul as a way to learn where we've been and how far we've evolved over that period of time. Rather than have an individual view of a past lifetime, we have the collective view of all of them. Now, this sweeping view brings to us a great understanding of our themes, our development as a soul, and helps us to understand this one little chapter that I'm in at the moment, which is Pete. I can be in one little chapter here, but we're part of an enormous volume, an incredible book that has all of these past lives as individual chapters, plus the parts in between. In superconscious memory, those are the places that we have access to.
Very interesting. And so how did you get involved in the Michael Newton Institute and in this whole line of work?
Well, I guess with anything, when you discover your purpose, it often happens by accident. And I had a business background for a long time and was always drawn to the metaphysical. And about 20 years ago, I discovered hypnotherapy as a way in which to release stress. Then it was, getting interested in past lives, and finally training as a hypnotherapist in a way that met my desire to want to be a past life therapist. Once I graduated from hypnotherapy school, I was in a bookshop and I was looking for a book as a gift for my teacher, always looking for something metaphysical. And I closed my eyes and stepped up to a bookshelf and I said, take me to the book I need today, just creating that intention. And I pulled Michael's first book, Journey of Souls, off the shelf. And when I read the back cover of that book, something inside me shifted. Something changed significantly. It was like my heart opened in a way it hadn't opened before. And it was the first time I'd really felt the energy of deep and profound purpose. And I knew that this was a special book. So, of course, about a day later, I'd finished it and went back to the second and then the third. And before I knew it, I was on my way to America to learn the art of Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy. So for me, it was a pull that I just couldn't escape, and something that's become a great passion for me now, of course.
Wow, beautiful story. So what does this type of work offer people, and where can they find a therapist who can do this type of work?
Well, back in 2006, when we formed the Michael Newton Institute, we had been in existence for a few years previously, but we sort of, it's like we reformed in 2005 and we named the organisation after Michael, which was the rightful way in which to bring this work to the world. Of course, the humility of the man was that it took quite some convincing for us to name the organisation after him. But in 2006, we had our first strategy day, if you like, in the United Kingdom, and we sat around as a group of leaders of our organisation and we said, how can we encapsulate what we do in one sentence? And it might have taken us a day or so to get to that, but ultimately it was about, what is it that we do? Well, we help somebody awaken an understanding of their immortal identity. So if we can put it in one phrase like that, and what does that mean for somebody? Basically what it means is that everybody who undertakes Life Between Lives hypnotherapy has, from their own experience, absolute certainty that they are a spiritual being having a human experience. And life is never quite the same again. Things evaporate like fear of death because we understand when we're heading home to spirit. We understand that there are loved ones waiting for us. Because we're in a space of timelessness in what we call now time, because we're there in the spiritual realm. And, we can connect with the experience of having planned this lifetime. And we can actually understand the intention for which we came. If we can bring our life purpose into our conscious awareness, life takes on a whole other dimension of certainty and of understanding as to why we're here and what we're meant to do. Not to say that avoids any aspects of free will, which is another great way in which we learn, evolve, and explore consciousness while we're here in human form. But it just brings that absolute certainty about being a spiritual being here for a period of time to get things done.
And so how can someone connect with a therapist that's able to provide this?
Well, back in 2002, when Michael formed the first part of our organisation, he realised that once he hit his 70s that he needed to hand his work on to the next generation of hypnotherapists, if you like, and he wrote the third book in the series, Life Between Lives, which is, if you like, more of a therapist's handbook. So from there, we started to train people, and we started in the USA. There was a sprinkling in other countries. But after another decade or so, here in 2016, we've now got therapists in 40 countries who've been trained. And these people who come to us for training are first and foremost hypnotherapists before they start. Secondly, we need them to be experienced past life therapists. So they're first and foremost therapists, then past life therapists. Then we train them in Life Between Lives. We take them into a 1-week residential program, which is pretty grueling, in which they both receive and offer to a colleague under our guidance and coaching, a Life Between Lives hypnotherapy session. And these sessions, Jocelyn, go for somewhere around 4 hours, sometimes longer. So it's a pretty deep and powerful investment into our energy. So after people undertake that residential program, they then need to submit cases to our certification team that is located around the world. And then after that period of time, they make it onto our listing as people who are, accredited by our institute and supported by us as a network around the world across the 40 or so countries now in which we have people. About half of our people are in the USA, but the other half are spread in other parts of the world, which is why you get a few strange accents like mine. So yeah, those people are available. There's a listing on newtoninstitute.org on the Find a Therapist tab. And our people are there ready to conduct these sessions in different parts of the world.
So what could someone expect generally? I'm sure it's very different for each individual, but in general terms, what could someone expect from a Life Between Lives session?
Well, it's as you say, it is different for everybody, and we do need to customize it to the individual. Preparation is key, and often it's a case of ensuring that if there's anything in the way, it needs to be cleared first. And one of the ways in which we do that, of course, is talk to our client. If there's any difficult times in childhood, sometimes it's helpful to actually go through and clear this life first before moving further into other lifetimes. So a Life Between Lives therapist will usually suggest at least a past life session first as a prerequisite to this work. We need to ensure that we can get the client's super consciousness active and out of the persona in which they find themselves in this lifetime. Mm. So the way in which we do that is past life first, because that really proves the case for us. And then when we get to the LBL session itself, we take our time very gently and very powerfully to relax a client down into the deeper states of their theta brainwave patterns. Mm. Now, this is a style of hypnotherapy that goes deeper than what we do normally. It's long and involved, it's gentle, it's deep. We use significant imagery and kinesthetic techniques to allow a client to move down into those deeper states of trance. We move back along this lifetime through childhood. Then we move into our time in our mother's womb before we're born, in utero. So we spend some time there activating some of the superconscious memory, because before life starts in this incarnation, our soul energy is very active in bonding with the human component of who we're meant to be in this lifetime. Mm. So from there, we move off into a past lifetime, often the last one, or maybe one that's even more important that the client needs to see. And when we go through that past life, we move to the end of it. We then move through the death scene and then back into spirit. And as Michael always advocated, it's great to go into the spiritual realm through the front door. So it's everything that we've done up until that time has sensitized the client towards spending time in the spiritual realm and being to hold that state of being. So once we move through into the spiritual realm, then we're free to explore anything of the client's intention that they've previously advised us of. It might be the meeting of a soul group with those souls that they incarnate with regularly. It might be to speak with wise beings who guide us from lifetime to lifetime, sometimes called a spiritual council. We may move through to a place where we plan this lifetime. We often call that the life selection room or the ring of destiny, or we undertake certain planning before we arrive, setting up places in the free will decisions that might help us to develop and grow. There's also activities that we undertake in spirit. This is a wonderful place to learn, this physical realm. In fact, it's a pretty tough school. But that learning continues when we're in spirit. So often we will attend spiritual learning groups that are held by wiser teachers. And if you like, that's where we can learn a lot of the theory before coming here into physical form to undertake the practical exercises that help us to ground those theories into part of our overall development as souls. So every Life Between Lives session has a life of its own. One thing that we're doing now with 200 different therapists around the world is these sessions are very individualized. We do them in a number of different languages now. Michael's books themselves have been translated into 40 languages. So really it's about the customization of where that person is in their life, what are the important things that are emerging for them at that point in time, and how we can best serve to connect them to the energy of their soul so they always have that guidance and wisdom with them as their life continues to unfold.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like just a truly incredible experience. I can hardly even imagine what it must be like.
Well, these are life-changing experiences, Jocelyn, and, you know, we find ourselves absolutely privileged. It's a great honour to be able to offer this to somebody, and, you know, often a lot of the fulfilment of our own journey is being able to offer these services. I guess there was probably a time when 200 souls came together before this lifetime to say, hey, let's help with this work in this lifetime. Let's come together to offer this work to the world. Started, of course, by Michael and the incredible work that he did to found this modality. And it was founded on 7,000 cases. And Michael, as this wonderful mix of the wise soul that he is, but also he's got a pretty good scientific sort of brain. He's an incredible researcher. And to find the mix of skills in one person is just remarkable. And of course, we've been able to build on that. Around the world now, we've done something like over 20,000 of these cases, and they continue to build on a daily basis through our network of people.
Wow. Incredible. I have two things that I'm curious if you can expand on it all, or I'll leave it open to you. One is the idea of that we frequently incarnate with the same souls over and over. I'm curious if that is that common? Is that an always? Is that a very common, that kind of thing? And then the same question about, that we set intentions, and I interpret this from what you've said to be, pretty much a definite, but that we set intentions for what we want to learn and what we want to experience in the upcoming life. Are both of those things that are very frequently and commonly experienced?
Absolutely. We often find that there are souls that we connect with and we like to learn with. It's a bit like being at high school. We want to take the subjects that our classmates are in, that are our buddies. It's a little bit like that, in that we'll incarnate in every lifetime with people that we've incarnated with before. Mm-hmm. As our soul learns, grows and develops, as we move along that path, there's a tendency for it to achieve a greater level of independence. But certainly earlier in our incarnations, and even for people who are further along in the evolution of their soul in linear time, which I'm using, I guess, as a way to interpret that for us here in human form. Mm-hmm. As we move through into those, we find that we're less reliant on others. Mm-hmm. One of the important aspects is that we normally have a primary soulmate, if you like, somebody that we connect with across a myriad of lifetimes. One or even two or maybe three souls in which we're really close to. And when we meet these people in our lives, there's a soul recognition that we feel energetically. Mm-hmm. Often we'll come across somebody in life and say, wow, I've only known you for 5 minutes, but it feels like I've known you all my life.
Right.
Well, it's probably more correct to say all my lives. So that could be somebody that you've incarnated with before and you've learned lessons. One thing that we do see as we continue to incarnate with the same souls, though, is a swap of roles. Whereas somebody may be your daughter in one lifetime, they may be your mother in another. Mm-hmm. I've seen some pretty extreme examples, and perhaps a good way to articulate some of these is a quick example of somebody's story. I worked with a lady who was quite distressed later in life. She had a son who was about 10. And when she was pregnant with that little boy, her partner committed suicide. Yeah. So she was always filled with guilt around that, because it happened around the time that she fell pregnant with their son. Mm. And she wondered if it was something to do with it, etc. And ultimately, when she did her Life Between Lives session, she went back into the in-between. And they were planning this lifetime. And she was aware of a past life where she had been the male and he had been the female, and there'd been a shipwreck down on the Cape of Good Hope as it comes around into the, right down the bottom of the world there. And as a man, she had swum out to that shipwreck in what was pretty much a suicide mission and drowned and left her male partner in this life as a female then with a child. So they were planning the reciprocal roles in this lifetime during this lady's LBL, and this other little soul came past and he said, hey, wow, that sounds like a fantastic contract that you guys are making for this lifetime. Can I come along and be the little boy? And they said, yeah, sure you can. So the interesting part about all that is in this current life with my client, after her partner had committed suicide and the little boy was born and he grew up, sometimes she'd be having a bad day and she'd be, curled up on the floor, just crying. And little boy at 2 years old would come up and he'd just pat her gently on the shoulder and he'd say, it's okay, Mum. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And that was his role in this lifetime for them, was to provide the support after his father had passed. But of course, all of this takes on a totally different dimension in spirit. And they're all celebrating this amazing reciprocal arrangements they'd made across two separate lifetimes. And both had learned and grown from having done both roles.
Wow. Very incredible.
So the first part of your question, yes, we do indeed reincarnate with the same people over again. Now, back to the second part of your question. Can you refresh me on that?
Yes, the second part was about that we make these contracts, or that we plan what what experiences we want to have, or what maybe lessons we want to learn before we incarnate into that life. Yeah.
That goes a long way towards our purpose. We may want to learn more about love or connection. We find that people's souls, their immortal identity, their super consciousness, if you want to call it that, we find that particular aspect of the person, that immortal essence, may well have some soul characteristics. So those soul characteristics may involve being a teaching soul or a healing soul. It may be about overcoming difficulties. It may be about learning patience. So in Life Between Lives sessions, a lot of this information came out and they say, well, before I came here, I wanted to learn more about patience. And the selection of a particular body for a specific soul character can sometimes be an easy fit, or it can be difficult. Let me give you an example. A soul that's always in a hurry and is very independent may choose, for example, a disabled body, so that they need to learn reliance on others, or they need to learn what it's like to just have to stay in one place and not be busy and out there doing things as they have in other lifetimes. So we may pick that particular contrast. In my own example, etc., it seems strange that, given we're an organisation that's based in the United States, that I'd be an Australian doing this. And in one of my own sessions as a client, and we encourage this all the time with our own people, that we need to continue to be the client, because in there lies our greatest learnings at times. I was told in one of my own sessions, well, it was really helpful to be Australian, because Australians are usually accepted wherever they go. When we go to the United Kingdom or the United States or Europe, people usually think Aussies are okay. So once you get past the accent, of course, but ultimately, the decisions that we make as we enter into each lifetime are set up as a way to help us do the planning. If you could look at the Life Between Lives sessions, probably the question that we get most is, what is my purpose in this lifetime? And to take somebody to the place where they actually planned that before they arrived is an incredible way to absolutely and completely own this lifetime and everything you've set up to do. There's no way you can ever sort of blame anybody else for your life, because it was of your own choosing and your own design.
Right. Yeah, very incredible. And there was one more thing you mentioned. It was about, I guess, spiritual guides or wisdom keepers that you would meet with in the spiritual realm. Can you expand on that at all?
Love to. What we've found with people is that we are guided and supported in ways that we can't imagine. I just really want to assure everybody here that's listening to our interview that we are never alone. We have incredible, benevolent spiritual beings that support us on our journey. What we find is that people have a spiritual guide. Often they meet them at the time of crossing over. Often they've been with them at the toughest parts of their life to reassure, and they're always close by. So these loving and benevolent guides love us in an unconditional way that it's hard for us to imagine while still in human form. But they're always there to meet with us, to debrief us from each lifetime, to welcome us home. And one of the most moving moments of a Life Between Lives session is when somebody moves back to the spiritual realm, having come out of that past life, and they're met by their guide. And we just say, take a moment and let me know when you're ready to continue. And, you know, the looks on people's faces, experiencing firsthand that unconditional love is something that just warms our hearts every time. So even beyond those spiritual guides, and sometimes people will have more than one who advise and allow support to move through to our client in their physical life for different aspects of their life. Particularly if they do some type of healing work, they may have some specialists that help them with that and continue to provide ideas and support to them. Just gently allowing that to seep into their consciousness from time to time. A lot of people who do healing work are really good at it and don't understand why. And some of that can be the practice of many lifetimes, or it could be some wise guidance that's offered to them at the times when they need it most. Beyond that, of course, we have a spiritual council, and that council, of course, is often a group of people that is made up again of a number of specialists who again convey to us this unconditional love that we feel in this beautiful place, this spiritual realm of absolute harmony. It's like they absorb that wisdom. And I mean, this is not like a trip to the headmaster's office. This is something that is absolutely beautiful. And the unconditional love and support. And even if we come out of a lifetime where we feel we haven't done well and we didn't achieve what we set out to do, there is such compassion and understanding and ultimately countless opportunities to start over and meet the goals that we originally set.
Now, how do you see all of this work? You know, I think it so clearly ties in with the great shift in consciousness that we're experiencing right now, and that, you know, I believe has brought about this summit, and that so many of the speakers in the summit are you know, talking about. Can you speak a little bit about that? How does it tie in?
I would love to. It's a shame we don't have 2 hours. But ultimately, many of us who are in the metaphysical realm, who deal with this type of service to people, we are all of an identical understanding that this is a time of a great shift of consciousness for our planet. It's a time of great opportunity, perhaps even a time of polarization for humanity, for those who are willing to shift and those who are a little bit caught back in the physical realm of what this life is. We have seen firsthand hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in our clinical practices that we are metaphysical beings first and foremost. There is a component of us that is here in human form, but we are far greater. As we start to understand more about the universe and our place in it and the greater consciousness of where we all are, we've got science and spirituality now starting to catch up. We've got incredible aspects of quantum physics telling us that we are now multi-dimensional beings, that we live in a holographic universe and everything is energy. Now, spiritual people have been saying this for a long period of time. So science and spirituality are coming together through the art of consciousness itself. And that's the common language between all of our groups. And if we all focus on consciousness, then that, I think, is the bridge between all of these different modalities or scientific fields of study that are open to the opportunities. And some fields of science are like that. I see quantum physics as the science of opportunity because that's what they advocate through alternate realities, parallel lives, etc. Now, what's happening now is there's an awakening happening in some scientific circles. There's an incredible awakening happening in the consciousness community. And many of us have come back in this lifetime to advocate the messages that this is a time of change and we can all be part of it. We know that connecting our consciousness and setting a combined intention for transition on this planet can be successful. We've already seen it in small ways. The Maharishi effect. Many people talk about that, and you may recall some experimentation done in the US some years ago when a whole group of some thousands of people meditating can lower the crime rate in a particular city. It's been, if you just Google the Maharishi effect, you'll see it mentioned in many places. Greg Braden talks about it in the Divine Matrix. Lots of people are talking about this stuff now. All we need to do is reach critical mass as humanity, and the collective consciousness of who we are can accelerate. And more of us who hold the intention for a greater vibration for humanity will transcend many of the issues that we're facing on this planet at this time. We can literally change the world through our consciousness. All we need to do is believe that we are. We need to release the conditioning that we've grown up with, and that can be cultural in different countries, that can be family conditioning. And I thought Carl Jung said it best when he said that we can never truly find ourselves until we release two types of conditioning, that of our society and that of our family. And whilst family gives us a wonderful start in this life, and we choose that family before we come, of course, in accordance with our LBL experiences, once we move past that and we transcend the things that hold us back and the limiting beliefs, I believe that we've got incredible potential as a collective, humanity itself. So all we need to do is set the intention for this shift in consciousness, and I really know in my heart that it can truly happen.
Amazing. So yeah, big message to everyone listening. Set that intention, because I think a lot of people listening are on this path, on the path that you speak of. And
yeah, otherwise they wouldn't be listening to us now. Exactly. Absolutely. And can I just say that it's fantastic that so many people are watching this, because I believe that every time that we have a conversation about consciousness, we send a further ripple out into the collective consciousness of humanity. The more and more conversations we can have, the more humanity will shift. And that's why we're happy to support this summit as well, is that every conversation on consciousness creates that greater energy.
Absolutely. We are getting near the end of the interview time. Is there anything else that you would like to say about your work, the Michael Newton Institute, any ways for people to get involved, that you would like to recommend?
Yeah, we're really excited about the growth of our organisation. It's like, we're going through this phase where more and more people are coming to us for information, whether it be opportunities to participate in a summit such as this, whether it's participation in documentaries, and we're just delighted. And it's now a long time since Michael wrote his books. In 2009, we published Memories of the Afterlife, which was from a collective of 32 of our authors around the world. And we just really want to get the case studies out to people more rapidly than what we've done before. Because, as you know, it takes time to edit a book, to assemble a book, to print a book, or even to get an ebook out there. It doesn't happen immediately. So about 2 years ago, we started a research department, and we've got some amazing people that are now collecting the research from our people around the world. And we needed a way to be able to get that to the general public. So late last year, we launched our online research journal called Stories of the Afterlife. Now, Stories of the Afterlife is published quarterly, and it's made available, and it's the most recent case studies we have from our countries around the world. We usually, put 3 or maybe 4 case studies per edition in there, and it's an opportunity to look inside the Newton Institute, to look at the things that we're doing. We have interviews with our practitioners. We have guidance and support from our people, how you can get involved. We have a Facebook community that's out there for the Michael Newton Institute. And we're making the research journal available by subscription. There are 4 of these a year, as I mentioned, so it's quarterly. And we're running a discount for a period of time to make that available for the people who are coming to the summit as well and visiting online, as a special of $19.97 US for the subscription, which is a $5 discount on what would normally happen. So we're going to hold that as our discount for a period of time, so people have a chance to enrol if they'd like to. And to do so, all they need to do is visit newtoninstitute.org, and you can see all the details there.
Wonderful. And we'll also put a link to that right under this interview, actually, right under where this interview is on the Summit site. There will be a link to that offer. So everyone can find it.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been an incredible, truly appreciate your time and your sharing your wisdom and expertise, and for sharing all of this with all the people that are listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Delighted to be able to speak to the group you've assembled. This is a great summit, as I mentioned before. We need more of these conversations.
Absolutely. Very much so. Thank you.